Hi everybody, welcome to TK Power Sports, and we've got something unusual but really cool for you today. We've got two off-road electric scooters, and in this video we're going to dive right in and see, are these the future of power sports? Are they a lot of fun, or are they just, cheap thrills and basic personal transport? Let's find out. So today we've got two electric off-road scooters to show you here. The first up in front there is the Nami Burn E2. And back here with the wicked flaming skull is the Varla Eagle 1 dual motor. Now, both of these scooters share a lot of similarities, so we're just going to talk real quick about off-road scooters. What do we actually have here? Well, you've got dual suspension front and rear. You have a literal swing arm design with a coil spring, full articulation, and in both instances, you've got nearly 6 inches of complete travel, and that's to soak up bumps, trail, whatever it is you're doing on-road or off-road. Also, you're going to notice shared similarities are disc brakes, and these are hydraulic disc brakes front and rear. And now both companies, Nami and Varla, both feature an ABS style system. So if you happen to get into trouble and you lock them up, the computer's going to recognize that and it's going to allow it to roll through, which is really handy when you've only got 2 wheels and you get into an emergency braking situation. The other things you're going to notice here that are similar, lighting. These things are different in terms of how they lit up. The deck on the Varla has 2 headlights mounted in the front of it and 2 brake lights mounted in it, whereas the Nami has a large headlamp up here on the rail and side lighting that includes your brakes as well as turn signals. And that's important, and I'm just going to talk about this right off the top. Every place in North America, I'm talking United States, Canada, wherever else you might be in the world, has different regulations for these scooters. So when you purchase one, make sure you read your local regulations. There are certain municipalities that have banned them entirely, certain municipalities that have no regulations. So make sure you know what you're getting into before you order one. So let's start up here with the Varla. So this is the Eagle 1 dual motor, and that means you've got 2 hub-based motors here that are both 1,000 watts with a peak of close to 2,100 watts of power. Now in the middle, incorporated into the deck, is an 18.2 amp hour battery, and over here you're getting an estimated range of 50 miles. So doing the math in my head, that's almost 100 kilometers, but that's going to depend on a lot of factors, and we'll get into that as we get riding too. Rider weight, terrain type, etc., etc. So up here on the handlebars, you're going to actually feature a key style ignition. So once you've turned that on, you're going to see an instant readout for your voltage here to let you know where it is you're charged. But if a number is not necessarily your thing, when you power up the screen here, you will have a battery indicator at the bottom. So you've got a series of different information to be shown here. You've got your odometer, and you can select your different gears, which is actually your speed outputs and how much speed you can have. And you can also turn on your lights by pressing and holding that button to fire everything up. Sliding across to this side, you're going to see these 2 buttons down low here. Now, these will select your different drive types. This will actually cycle you between single and dual motor and eco and turbo. And depending on which combination, both out, both pressed, or one up or one down, you will actually get different combinations of power, mileage, and just overall performance. And that really gives you the capability to say, what kind of a ride am I having today? Am I out here for fun, or have I got to go a long distance? Am I commuting? Do I want to go slow? Do I want to go fast? It really gives you that freedom to do what you want. And of course, you also get a bell, because you want to let people know you're coming on the trail. The biggest complaint I had over here on the Varla handlebars is this throttle. It is a finger-based throttle, which seems pretty straightforward, but look at its proximity to the brake lever. There have been 1 or 2 instances where I've gone from throttle to try and grab that, and I have accidentally caught that throttle lever. There have been 1 or 2. Now, I can roll them a little bit, try and separate them, but now we're getting into a situation where I'm up for the throttle, down for the brake, and that's a little uncomfortable. So it's something you got to bear in mind when you first start riding this, is really get comfortable with up, down, and you're not grabbing the wrong thing. So let's jump over to the Nami and let's talk about what we got over there. So over here on the Burn E2, we're going to have the same in-hub dual motors, but these motors, they're a wee bit bigger. We're looking at 1,500 watt base with almost 8,400 watts of peak output. And I stress that because in terms of top speed, we'll throw a GoPro on here in a little bit and show you but I've seen speeds upwards of 80 kilometers an hour on this thing, and it is absolutely unreal. So that comes from 2 motors, and they're also powered by a 32 amp hour battery, which is incorporated here into your deck. Other features over here, you're gonna have a complete carbon fiber post up to your handlebars. And down here, this little guy is actually a steering damper. It's mounted between the control arm and the frame. And when you're moving at those higher speeds, you like to know that you're not going to get a speed wobble. Trust me, it's nerve-wracking when you're doing that. Up here on the handlebars with the Nami, you're going to see a similar control layout that you had over on the Varla, but I'm just going to go ahead and turn that on. There we go. The big differences over here, your screen. Your screen has a lot more information, and you can actually select and customize your drive modes with the push of a button without the actual dual push like over there. You also have things like your trip, and you can cycle through average speeds, max speeds. You can see your instant range readout as you're driving, or just your speed at current. Over here on the right-hand side, you're gonna feature a thumb throttle. So over here, we've solved the issue of the throttle being too close to the brake pedal by putting it down low and operating there. This bank of buttons here, horn, pretty self-explanatory. This one comes with turn signals that you could actually fire up, and they will show you an indicator here on the screen that they are working, and that'll let the people know behind you know that you are gonna make a maneuver or something of that nature. Turning on your light, pretty straightforward, same thing. Tells you up top and shows you in the front. This headlight is really bright and will turn with you as you ride the trail. Whereas the Varla mounted in the deck, they're great lights, but they're down low, and until the board starts to turn, which isn't too far behind, but it's just enough that having that little bit of extra see as around the corner is really handy. The placement of these brakes is really nice, and overall, the stance here, because you have a much wider deck. You're only a little over 9 inches over there, and you are almost 13 inches over here, including that rigid bar in the back to brace yourself against. It's a much more comfortable standing position. You can move your feet around while you're riding, and there's a little less wobble, but overall, they're pretty similarly stacked up. So why don't we hit the trail, and we'll talk about how they do on the trail, and we're gonna go find some gravel and do a little off-road.
Now let's talk about how they actually ride. And for this segment, I'm going to talk to you, but Matthew's behind the camera. Say, hey, Matt.
Hey, folks.
So we've actually been riding them both all day today, so I've got lots of thoughts on both of these. But let me start with the Varla. And I think the first thing you feel when you jump on this scooter compared to the Nami, it's lightweight. Literally, it is lighter than that thing, but also it just doesn't have that big kind of frame surrounding it, almost like an exoskeleton like the Nami has. And then the other thing is, it's really maneuverable. If you look, I can actually turn beyond 90 degrees. So you're not going to do that at speed, but at slow speeds, or even just for getting started, walking it out onto the trail, it's really handy to have that. Whereas on the Nami, you have that steering stabilizer, which works excellent in high speed, but it also limits the amount of turn you get. So for overall kind of lightweight maneuverability, I would say the Varla feels better. Now we can talk about the power, and that's an area where, yes, the Nami absolutely feels better. That thing takes off just unbelievably. The acceleration is crazy. And then the Nami has all of those different drive modes: sport, dynamic, and extreme. I don't get the same amount of drive modes of controllability here on the Varla. And frankly, it's just not as quick, and the top speed is limited. So the overall speed kind of thrills, you have to pick the Nami, right, Matt? I mean, I don't know if there's much contest between the two.
No, there's not. I think we said it off the top, and even off camera we were joking about it. It's like comparing a Ferrari with a Toyota Corolla. Yeah, and they're both great to drive in their own regards, but 2 different categories for sure.
Yeah, but like you said, if you're looking for pure thrills, it's Nami. If you're just looking to commute though, just get from point A to point B, this Varla is excellent. And the thing I wasn't really sure about was just kind of stability at high speeds. This was my first time on a really powerful electric scooter, and I had no issue handling it. After a minute, you get a decent feel for it. And even though the deck here isn't as wide as the Nami, I still felt like it was quite easy to get comfortable, and I'll say it again, the stability at high speeds is quite good. On the Nami though, I was actually able to stand straight like this, whereas here on the Varla, you're always kind of sideways just because of the width of that deck. So overall comfort also leans a little bit in the Nami's direction, but I just want to get that out there, that if you're scared that you're going to get these and they're going to overpower you and you're not going to get a hang of it, I wouldn't be. It didn't take very long at all. The learning curve is just not that steep.
How did you feel about the ride height as far as the handlebars went, Steve?
There is definitely a difference. I mean, you can see this comes up just above stomach height, and then I jump over here on the Nami, and it's chest height, basically. These feel a little bit easier to control. You just get, I mean, literally a little bit more leverage out of the handlebars. I stand at 6'2". Matthew's a tall guy too at 6 foot, so we definitely prefer, I think, this taller setup. But I wouldn't say the Varla was uncomfortable or anything along those lines. A little taller though, you just feel like you have a little bit better control. So I said it, Matt, on road, on that paved trail, overall comfort's really similar. I mean, the Nami's a little bit more exciting, but for just commuting, they're both really good. But we didn't just stay on road today. We went and found some dirt, a little bit of mud and some rocks. So why don't you talk us through what you felt when we went off-road?
So yeah, we were cruising along the trail and we saw this cool old gravel pit, sand pit looking thing with some rocks and some loose stuff. And I know there used to be an old shipping yard there on the coal docks. You'll see in the dirt, nice and black there. But we found some cool obstacles, and I think they were very similar performance off-road. We were both very impressed. I know getting in there, the first thing I said to Steve, as soon as we got off the pavement, I was like, watch out for wiping out, watch out for the wheels going out from under you. And we certainly felt that, a little bit of slop here and there, but overall with a little bit of speed, they pulled. The Nami had a slightly wider tire than the Varla, despite being the same height, and that certainly helped it to kind of grip in some of the looser stuff. But these narrow tires on the Varla here, they kind of cut through everything. The siping in the tires really kept it upright and didn't really get you bogged down in the clay either, which was nice. And yes, on trail, the width of the Nami is nice. I can move my feet around, I can adjust, but off-road, I had that like almost snowboard-esque stance going, and you were able to kind of carve. You were kind of able to huck the unit out and just kind of stick into the corners, especially you'll see here, going up and over some of those rocks, getting down into that riding position was really comfortable and a lot of fun. I think the fun factor, I don't know if either of us were expecting that one, Steve, and you can tell me what you thought, but I wasn't expecting to enjoy off-road as much. I was expecting it to be nervous and, oh, we got to get this for the video, but I had a blast out there.
Same. Honestly, I was expecting it to be fun, but I was also expecting to be let down by the performance. I figured, how good can the suspension be? How good can the clearance be? And then the suspension ate everything up, and I kept running over rocks thinking I was gonna high side and kind of turtle out, and it just never happened. So the clearance is also pretty impressive. Yeah, man, I could actually ride off-road all day on one of those. And then, you know what? This is with all electric vehicles, but I actually like that it's silent. It's kind of fun out there when you're not listening to the drone of an engine.
Exactly. And as far as performance off-road was great, I just wanted to comment on, they both have a really good set of fenders, kept everything clean and dry. The one thing I did notice out there though, you'll see here on the Nami, the charge ports are up on the inside of the frame rail and completely clean. So you can see down here on the side, your charging ports are down low and on the outside of the rail. So I've kind of wiped them off already, but you can see the road debris kind of getting sprayed on both the lights and the charging ports. So yeah. Longevity wise, I'm hoping they hold up. Time will tell with that one. But
not a great spot for it.
Just when we were in the water, I kind of thought to myself, I wish they were up high and in a safer spot, especially something electrical. And as long as you're talking charging, what are our charging times like? Well, each unit comes with its own charging unit when you purchase them, and both recommend different times and both are dual charge capable, but with a single charger, you're looking at an overnight. You know, somewhere between 8 and 12 hours is likely. We'll throw it up on the screen here to just confirm that, but they will charge up from 0 to 100% overnight, so you're always ready to go in the morning, as with any other electric vehicle. But what will that get you? Well, over here on the Varla, we're talking about an estimated range of 40 miles. And on the Nami, we've been given an estimated range of 120 kilometers. And to just speak to that, we rode about 20K today. And the Varla is now getting down to about 2 bars, 1 bar on the battery. It doesn't give us an exact readout, whereas the Nami, when I parked it here just now, is still reading in the 80% range. So The Nami range seems a little more on point than the Varla. It seems to maybe be a little bit bloated or a little bit exaggerated, but both were, performing well. They don't lose any performance as far as their battery range goes. It's just, can I get all the way to work and back and charge once every 3 days with the Nami? Probably. Am I gonna have to charge the Varla every single night to complete my commute? Yes, you are going to. If that's something you can live with, no big deal. Now, we got a couple more kilometers to go out here today till we get home. So we're gonna go hit the trail, have a little bit more fun, and then we'll tell you what we think at the end.
Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this one. Now, you've heard our thoughts on both of these scooters, but one of the most important points, of course, is the price. So what do they cost? Over here, the Nami Burn E2, this is gonna run you between $4,500 and $5,500, depending on the country you're buying it in and which dealer you go to. And then over here, if you go for this Varla, this is only gonna cost you about $1,700 Canadian. That's what we'd pay for it here in Canada. And this one gets shipped straight to your door, whereas the Nami, you have to go to a dealer and buy it. So listen, these two scooters are quite different, and it is gonna come down to what your usage case is. If you prioritize overall range and top speed, the Nami is absolutely your choice. But if you can afford to cut down on your range and you don't need the crazy speed, what the Varla does is offers incredible value. Plus, out there on the trail, on road and off-road, this much less expensive scooter, the Varla, feels almost just as good as that Nami. So I told you, this thing has its benefits, but for me, if I have to pick a winner, it's definitely this Varla, just for the fact that it offers that really strong value and still does the same job as that more expensive scooter. But hey, of course, now I need to hear from you. So please go in the comments, let me know which one of these two you would choose. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next.